I've transmigrated into a book as the Villainess destined to die, in the hands of the male lead. So before I even got to meet him, I escaped my city life and went to a small rural town. Little did I know the main characters were having a short trip there. When I woke up, I saw myself in an unfamiliar place. Then I realized that I was in a novel where I was the villainous rich heiress, in an elite academy. I would bully the female lead, Anna, until the male lead, Garrett, fights for her and gets me expelled, ruin my family's business, and eventually kills me after I try to poison Anna during their graduation. Of course, I would hate that too, happen, and since it is still a year before I turn 18, and the story starts in school, I would escape this place and hide in a small village where the main characters won't be able to find me for maybe 4 years, just as the main characters have graduated. After a few months, I was able to adjust, studying in a rural school and working part-time in a restaurant. I thought things would be peaceful until I saw a group of people who obviously had a glimmer of spotlight above their heads. Weirdly, no one saw these. Probably as a reader, I know that they were the main characters. In there, I saw 7 people: Anna, Garrett, and 5 of their friends. Well, of course I was shocked, but I guess I didn't have to be since I still wasn't a character in their lives, so they don't know me at all. And so as they sat in the restaurant, I still wasn't risking my life to get order, so I acted busy, but the owner instructed me to serve them, so I had no choice. They were actually on a short trip for a group project that they had to do, a research about this village. Haha, lucky me. I forced a smile onto my face as I approached their table. Welcome. What would you like to order? The moment I looked up, my eyes accidentally met Garrett's, the male lead, the future murderer of my character. I almost dropped the menu. His golden eyes narrowed slightly, as if he found something strange. No way, I thought. He can't recognize me. We've never met. Are you all right? Anna asked kindly. The female lead was exactly as the novel described: beautiful, gentle, and bright enough to make everyone around her seem dull. Yes. I quickly took their orders and escaped to the kitchen. My heart was pounding. This wasn't supposed to happen. In the novel, Garrett and Anna shouldn't have visited this village. This scene didn't exist. So why were they here? That night, I couldn't sleep. The story was changing, and changes were dangerous. Because if the plot was changing, then my knowledge as a reader might become useless. Around midnight, a loud knock echoed through my small apartment above the restaurant. Knock. Knock. I froze. Nobody visited at this hour. Slowly, I opened the door. My eyes widened. Standing outside was Garrett, alone. What are you doing here? The words escaped before I could stop them. His eyebrow raised. Interesting. What? You reacted as if you already knew me. I gripped the door tighter. He leaned closer. Moonlight illuminated his face. You've been avoiding us all day. I don't know what you're talking about. You kept staring at Anna. I wasn't. You looked terrified every time you saw me. I immediately tried closing the door. Unfortunately, he blocked it with one hand. Who are you? My blood ran cold. The novel never mentioned Garrett being this observant. In fact, he wasn't supposed to be. The next morning, rumors spread through the village. The group had decided to stay for 2 more weeks. 2 weeks. 2 weeks, I wanted to cry. This was exactly how side characters died in novels. First, they encountered the protagonists. Then they got involved in the plot. Then they died. Over the next few days, I did everything possible to avoid them. Unfortunately, fate seemed determined to ruin my life. I met them at the market. I met them near the river. I even met them while collecting herbs on a mountain. Every single time Garrett somehow appeared nearby. At first, I thought he was suspicious. Then I realized something worse. He was curious. And curiosity was dangerous. Because curiosity led to interest. Interest led to involvement. And involvement led to death. One afternoon, everything changed. I was returning from school when I heard screams. Smoke rose from the center of the village. People were running everywhere. Fire! The old warehouse near the square had exploded. Without thinking, I rushed forward. Then I saw it. A little girl trapped inside. The villagers were panicking. Nobody could get close enough. The flames were too intense. The girl was crying. "Mama!" Before I realized what I was doing, I ran inside. The heat burned my skin. Wood collapsed around me. I grabbed the girl and searched desperately for an exit. But then, crash! A burning beam fell directly above us. I closed my eyes. Great. So this is how I die. Then strong arms wrapped around me. A familiar voice cursed. "Are you insane?" Garrett. The next thing I knew, he crashed through a window and rolled across the ground outside. The villagers cheered. I couldn't hear them, because I was staring at Garrett, and Garrett was staring at me. Not with curiosity, not with suspicion, but fear, genuine fear, as if he had almost lost someone important. That night, the village doctor treated my burns. When everyone finally left, Garrett remained. The room was silent. Then he spoke. "Why did you do it?" "The child would have died. You could have died." I laughed weakly. "That's life." His expression darkened. "No." "What?" "I don't want you talking like that." My heart skipped. "Wait. Hold on. This wasn't right. This wasn't in the novel. Nothing about this was in the novel." Then came the biggest shock. 3 days later, Anna approached me privately. She looked nervous. "Can we talk?" I nearly fainted. The female lead voluntarily talking to the villainess. Impossible. We sat near the river. After a long silence, Anna asked, "Do you remember your previous life?" Everything stopped. The world seemed to freeze. My breathing halted. "What?" Anna smiled sadly. "I knew it." I stood up immediately. "How do you know that?" "Because I remember mine too." My mind exploded. "What? What?" Anna looked toward the flowing river. "In my previous life, I read this novel." My jaw dropped. "No way." She nodded. "And the story wasn't supposed to happen like this." Cold chills traveled down my spine. "What do you mean?" Anna's eyes trembled. "Because in the novel I read," she looked directly at me, "you weren't the villainess." I felt my heart stop. "What?" "You were the heroine." The river breeze suddenly felt freezing. Anna's voice became quiet. "The villainess was someone else." My hands shook. "No. There are things wrong with this world." "What things?" Anna hesitated, then whispered, "Garrett remembers his previous life too." Meanwhile, on the hill, overlooking the village, Garrett stood alone beneath the sunset. In his hand was a worn notebook, a notebook filled with events from the original novel. Events that were slowly changing, events that no longer matched reality. He opened the final page. A single sentence was written there. The handwriting wasn't his. "Find her before she remembers. Who killed her in the first timeline?" Garrett's expression darkened, because there was one thing he had never told anyone. Not Anna, not his friends, and certainly not her. In his previous life, he hadn't killed the villainess. He had loved her, and someone else had murdered her. Someone who was currently standing beside Anna, smiling, waiting, watching. The next few days passed strangely. Ever since the warehouse fire, Garrett had become unusually attentive toward me. He always seemed to know where I was, appearing whenever I needed help. If I was carrying supplies for the restaurant, he would silently take half of them. If I stayed late after work, I would somehow find him walking the same road home. At first, I was nervous, then confused, then comfortable, which was dangerous, because Garrett was supposed to be the male lead, and I was supposed to be the villainess. This wasn't how the story went. One afternoon, I was wiping tables when Anna sat across from me with a knowing smile. "You like him?" I nearly dropped the rag in my hand. "What?" "You like Garrett." "I do not." "You do." "I don't." You turned red. I immediately covered my face. Anna laughed so hard she almost fell out of her chair. Somehow, over the past few weeks, we had become friends. Real friends. The realization still felt surreal. The female lead who was supposed to hate me was currently stealing fries from my plate. Life was strange. Soon, the group's research project was coming to an end, which meant they would be leaving. I should have been relieved. After all, avoiding the main characters was the reason I ran away in the first place. So why did the thought of Garrett leaving make my chest ache? The answer arrived on the night before their departure. The village was holding its annual summer festival. Lanterns lit the streets while music echoed through the air. I was helping at one of the food stalls when Garrett suddenly appeared. "Come with me." "Huh?" Before I could protest, he took my hand. My heart nearly stopped. Ignoring my flustered expression, he led me through the crowd and up the hill, overlooking the village. The festival lights glittered below us. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then Garrett sighed. "You know, you've been avoiding me." I stared at him. "That's not true." "It is." "It isn't." "It is." I rolled my eyes. He laughed. The sound caught me off guard. I had never imagined Garrett laughing. The novel never mentioned that. Then his expression softened. "Why did you run away?" The question hit harder than I expected. I looked toward the village lights. "I just wanted a peaceful life, that's all." I hesitated. How could I explain that I ran away because I thought he would someday destroy me? Was scared. His gaze remained fixed on me. Of what? Everything. For a moment, silence settled between us. Then Garrett smiled. A small, gentle smile. "You don't have to be anymore." Something in my chest tightened. Because for the first time since arriving in this world, I believed him. The fireworks suddenly exploded overhead. Colors illuminated the night sky. Garrett looked strangely nervous. Then he took a deep breath. "I like you." My mind went blank. "What?" "I like you." The fireworks seemed quieter than my heartbeat. I stared at him. The male lead had just confessed to the villainess. The story had completely gone off script. But when I looked into his eyes, I realized I didn't care anymore. Maybe fate had plans. Maybe novels had plots. But this wasn't their story anymore. It was mine. And I wanted this. So I smiled. "I like you too." The next morning, Garrett's group was scheduled to leave. Instead, Garrett disappeared. At first, everyone assumed he had gone somewhere alone. Then hours passed. No one could find him. Panic spread quickly. Anna looked genuinely worried. He wouldn't leave without telling us. I felt a knot form in my stomach. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Then a letter arrived at the restaurant. It was addressed to me. With trembling hands, I opened it. Inside was a single sentence. "If you want him alive, come to the old lighthouse alone." My blood ran cold. And suddenly, I remembered Garrett's strange behavior. His notebook. His worried expressions. His constant watchfulness. Without telling anyone, I ran. The old lighthouse stood at the edge of the sea. Rain clouds gathered overhead as I climbed the winding staircase. At the very top, I found him. Garrett. Tied to a chair. Bruised but conscious. Relief flooded through me. Then I heard a clap behind me. Slow. Mocking. I turned. Claire stood near the window, smiling. The same smile she always wore. The same smile that suddenly made sense. Smiling. Waiting. Watching. It had been her all along. I knew you'd come, Claire said. What do you want? She laughed softly. Isn't it obvious? The wind howled outside. For the first time, her cheerful mask disappeared, and beneath it was years of resentment. Like me. Claire remembered another life. Like me, she had read the novel. But unlike me, she had fallen in love with Garrett long before arriving in this world. She had always known how the story ended. Garrett chose Anna, or in some versions he chose me. Never her. Never once. And she hated it. I tried changing everything, Claire whispered. I changed events. I changed meetings. I changed opportunities. Her eyes watered, but no matter what I did, she looked at Garrett. He always found his way back to you. For a moment, I felt sorry for her. Because this wasn't really about me. It wasn't even about Garrett. It was about wanting to be loved and being unable to accept rejection. You can't force someone to love you, I said quietly. Claire laughed bitterly. I know. For the first time, she looked exhausted. Not evil. Just tired. Tired of fighting a story that refused to change. Outside, footsteps echoed through the lighthouse. Anna and the others had followed me. When they entered, Claire finally broke. Years of frustration came pouring out in tears. No dramatic fight. No final battle. No deaths. Just the end of a lonely girl's obsession. Eventually she surrendered, and the storm outside began to calm. A month later, the group finally left the village. This time without incident. Claire apologized before departing. The apology didn't erase everything, but it was a beginning. And sometimes, beginnings were enough. As for Garrett, he promised to come back. And unlike the promises made in novels, he kept his. Letters arrived every week, then every few days, then almost every day. Before long, distance became impossible. 4 years later, I stood beneath the same hill overlooking the village. The same place where everything had changed. The same place where Garrett confessed. The sunset painted the sky gold as footsteps approached behind me. I turned. Garrett was smiling. In his hand was a small velvet box. My heart immediately started racing. You know, he said, this isn't how the novel was supposed to end. I laughed. No, it isn't. He opened the box. A ring sparkled inside. Good. I blinked. What? He smiled. Because I like this ending better. Tears filled my eyes as I nodded. And as he slipped the ring onto my finger, I realized something. The villainess who was destined to die never actually existed. She was only a role written in someone else's story. The moment I chose my own path, that fate disappeared. The female lead became my friend. The male lead became the love of my life. And the ending that was supposed to be tragic became something far better. A happy ending. One that belonged entirely to us.